You built an altar where a grave should be, and now you're bleeding at its feet every single day, calling it loyalty when God calls it chains. There's a difference between honoring someone's memory and sacrificing your future on it, between carrying love and being buried alive by what you refuse to let die inside you. You know that person wouldn't want this version of you, the one who stopped living the day they stopped breathing, the one who turned their absence into a religion and their memory into a god you serve with your own slow disappearance. You wake up and the first thought isn't gratitude for another day. It's guilt that you're here and they're not. Guilt that cuts deeper than any knife because you've convinced yourself that moving forward is moving away from them. You replay the same conversations in your mind like sacred scriptures. Wear their favorite color like a uniform of grief. Visit places they loved not to feel close to them, but to punish yourself with the pain of their absence. Every song becomes a hymn to what's gone. Every sunset a reminder that beauty exists in a world they can no longer see. And somehow you've made that your fault, your cross, your daily sacrifice at the altar of a love that's supposed to set you free but instead has you chained to a past that's devouring your present. You don't talk about them in past tense because that feels like betrayal. You don't laugh too loud because joy feels like amnesia. You don't make new memories because that feels like replacement. And somewhere in all of this sacred suffering, you forgot that they were human, not holy, that they had flaws and bad days and moments they'd want you to forget. But you've canonized them, made them perfect in death in ways they never were in life, and now you're worshipping a version of them that never existed, while the real them, the messy, beautiful real them, gets lost in the shrine you built. This isn't love anymore. This is idolatry. And the cruelest part is you think you're being faithful when really you're just being a prisoner. You think you're keeping them alive when really you're the one who stopped living. And God is watching you bleed out slowly at an altar He never asked you to build. The truth that's going to cut you open right now is this. That person, that dream, that life you lost, it became your God the moment you decided nothing else could matter as much. The moment you made your identity about what you lost instead of who God says you still are. You pray, but your prayers are more about them than Him. You read scripture, but you're looking for them between the lines instead of looking for your next breath, your next purpose, your next reason to believe that God's plan didn't die when they did. You've turned their absence into your entire theology, made your grief your gospel, and every day you're preaching to yourself that the best part of your life is over, that you peaked in their presence and everything after is just aftermath, just leftovers, just the cruel punishment of having to continue when your heart stopped beating the day theirs did. But here's what you won't let yourself see because it feels too much like betrayal. They're gone, and you can honor that without being gone too. You can miss them without making them your master. You can carry their love without it being the weight that crushes you into the ground. God didn't take them away to punish you. He didn't orchestrate their exit to teach you some sick lesson about loss, and He's not asking you to forget them or pretend they didn't matter or act like the wound doesn't exist. What He's asking, what He's been asking this whole time while you've been deaf to anything that isn't the sound of your own grief, is for you to let Him be God again, to take them off the throne you put them on, and remember that throne was never theirs to sit on in the first place. You know the commandment, the first one, the one that cuts through every religious ritual and gets straight to the heart. You shall have no other gods before me. And you read that and think it's about statues and false religions and ancient people who bowed to golden calves. But it's about you, right now, this moment, with their photo as your screensaver, and their memory as your morning prayer, and their absence as the thing you organize your entire existence around. It's about how you've made an idol out of pain, how you've convinced yourself that suffering is the same as faithfulness, how you've turned the person you lost into the thing you worship, because worshiping them feels easier than trusting God with the devastation of their absence. And I know it feels like letting go is letting them down, like healing is betrayal, like joy is amnesia, but that's the lie that idolatry always tells. That's the whisper of the altar you built with your own bleeding hands, that your pain is your proof of love, that your brokenness is your badge of honor, that staying stuck is staying loyal. But God is saying something different, something that's going to sound harsh until you let it heal you. He loved them too. He knows the exact weight of your loss because He felt every tear before it fell. And He's not asking you to stop loving them. He's asking you to stop dying for them. Because they're already dead and you don't have to be. The person you lost would be horrified if they could see what you've become in their name. How you've used their memory as permission to abandon yourself. How you've made their legacy about your suffering instead of about the love that once made you both feel alive. They didn't die so you could build a monument to misery. They didn't leave so you could spend the rest of your life as a ghost haunting the halls of what used to be. If they loved you, and I mean really loved you, they'd want you to live, not just exist, not just survive, not just go through the motions while your soul stays buried 6 feet under with them. So here's what you do, here's the thing that's going to feel impossible and necessary at the same time. You start taking their picture off the throne, not off your wall, not out of your heart, but off the place in your spirit where only God belongs, the place where you go for identity and purpose and reason to take the next breath. You start having conversations with God that aren't about them. You start praying prayers that don't include their name. You start believing that your life has meaning beyond the meaning they gave it. You let yourself laugh without immediate guilt. You let yourself plan a future without their presence in it. You let yourself be a whole person instead of just the half that's left after they took their half with them. And yes, it's going to feel like betrayal at first. Yes, it's going to feel like you're abandoning them. Yes, you're going to cry new tears because grief isn't linear and healing isn't gentle, and letting go doesn't mean you didn't love them enough. It means you loved them exactly right, and now you have to learn to love yourself the same way. You have to learn that remembering them doesn't require you to stop living, that honoring their impact doesn't mean accepting their absence as your identity, that they were a chapter in your story, maybe the most beautiful chapter, but God is still writing and the book isn't over, and you don't get to close it just because the best part hurt the most. Stop building altars where God is trying to build a future. Stop sacrificing your present on the past. Stop making them your God when they were just human. Beautifully and messily and imperfectly human, and they wouldn't want this version of you that's more memorial than person, more monument than miracle. You are still God's masterpiece in progress, still His beloved, still called, still chosen, still worthy of a life that doesn't revolve around who you lost, but around who He says you're becoming. The saudade, the longing, it's real, it's valid, it's allowed, but it's not your altar, it's not your God, it's not the thing you bow to every morning and bleed for every night. You were never meant to be defined by absence. You were meant to be defined by the God who stays when everyone else leaves, by the one who didn't abandon you in your grief, but walked through it with you, even when you couldn't feel His presence because your hands were too full of memories to reach for His. So put them down, not forever, not completely, but enough to open your palms and receive what's next. Enough to let God be God again. Enough to remember that your greatest act of love isn't staying broken in their memory. It's becoming whole again despite their absence. Because that's what resurrection looks like. That's what faith in the middle of grief actually means. That's how you honor both the person you lost and the God who never left.